Welcome to Folks Around the World. Today's guest is an indigenous artist. His name is Ovila. We're going to bring him in and find out a little bit about where he finds his inspiration and a little about his culture as well. Can't wait to bring him in. 1 second. Okay, welcome to our show, Ovi.
Yes. How's it going?
Good. So, you are an indigenous artist originally from Canada, but now living in the US.
That's right. Yeah, the Midwest, Indiana. And I'm originally from Seabird Island, British Columbia.
Great. So can you just first, I'm really curious about a little bit about, so you're an artist now, but I'm interested to find out how you got to where you are. And can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what that was like?
Yeah, definitely. I grew up on Seabird Island, spent most of my life there. And it's located maybe about 2 hours east of Vancouver,
Hmm.
the biggest city in British Columbia. And it's a small reservation, spent most of my life there. And like any other reservation, it does come um, with its negative sides, but it's definitely a really nice community, and it's located like I really miss it because it's just so gorgeous there. Like you're surrounded by the mountains and the river, and that's definitely something I miss being here in the Midwest. And I've
Right.
been doing graphic art, Coast Salish graphic art, for about maybe 6 years now. And Coast Salish graphic art is the style of art in the Salish territory where I was located, part of Stalo Nation.
Right. And so when I looked a little bit about on your website, it looks like you are part of two different nations. Is that correct? But both from Salish Sea. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I've spent most of my time in Stalo territory, so that's where kind of I took that art style from basically our roots, and it took me a long time to kind of learn that history, and it was all kind of self-taught, and things just kind of started to come natural for me as an artist way to express myself through our kind of traditional styles. But I wouldn't say necessarily I'm a traditional artist,
Right.
but
It
I
looks
still
very
use,
modern and fresh.
yeah, I still use those traditional elements that have been passed down through us through generations. And it just felt really the best way, the most comfortable way for me to express myself through my work.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's obviously part of your identity and then also part of your way of expressing yourself, but in your own way as well. Because it is very, there's something very sharp and flashy about it that I really like that seems like it would appeal to today's generations, you know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, definitely.
and
And
so like when I look at your biography a little bit, you did mention that you had a mother who really helped you get through hard times, and I'm wondering if you would share a little bit about what kind of wisdom did she impart on you as a kid, and what kind of hardships did you go through that you felt she helped you get through, and how?
yeah, my mother definitely played a huge role in my life and passed down a lot of knowledge to me. And I just came from a really creative family too. Like she was a writer. My father was a painter. My father basically left us when I was about 9, so he wasn't really around in the long run. So it was my mom who was always there, um, just teaching me how to be a man, basically. And I guess when you're when you're living on a reservation, you go through a lot of different things like um, alcohol and domestic violence and abuse and things like that. So growing up on a reservation can be really difficult. Um, so thankfully, I had my mother there to kind of um, pass down the knowledge to me to uh, just know that to be smart about things. Like she really taught me how to be a really good person, and I owe a lot to her. And I like expressing that through my art as well. Sometimes I do. So hopefully that's kind of obvious for people to see. But yeah, she definitely played a big role in my life, and Yeah, I'm just really thankful for that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And so when you started doing your art, was somebody behind you kind of encouraging you? Like, were there people that were like your mentors and things like that?
I definitely had uh, like friends and peers um, always supporting me, and other Coast Salish artists. Like, we're a pretty small community, Coast Salish art. So the way I see it, uh, we all kind of support each other in the work that we do. And that's kind of how I see other Coast Salish artists. Like, I want to help them out and encourage them and give them advice that certain things that I've learned. Uh, and it's all self-taught too. It wasn't until later on that I kind of got uh, better advice and better direction from other Coast Salish artists. But I definitely have that support through friends and family and a few other artists as well.
Great. What I've noticed is like, so I'm originally from the US and I had a big part of my childhood was in Colorado, Arizona. And so when you look at indigenous art from there, it's completely separate. There, it's so different. And when I moved to Canada, I noticed specifically Pacific Northwest nation, First Nation art was so unique, and it almost looked kind of for me it had so much in common with Polynesian art, you know, or almost Hawaiian or Maori or these type of things. And I find that fascinating that it's kind of, it shows that, and that it seems like a big part of First Nation identity. And I mean, when I see what's happening, at least on Vancouver Island, I don't feel the presence. I know there was a presence or still is a presence of First Nations. I only see it in art or in totem poles or in things like that. And
Mhm.
sometimes I wonder, like, how does it feel as a First Nation person to see art around the community, but to not necessarily be respected or seen? I mean, that's just how it seems to me. It's just kind of like, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, pretty sure I do. And like, Coast Salish art is definitely something you want to see more of in Vancouver. And I just recently, just a few weeks ago, got selected and invited to do a mural in the Vancouver Mural Fest. So I think that's great because you get to see more Coast Salish art throughout the territory as well. And it's interesting because I think a lot of that comes through uh, like a lack of education and knowledge passed down. Because I can remember in school, in junior high, uh, on my reservation, I went to Seabird School, I think in grade 8, and they were teaching us um, indigenous art, but it was a style that wasn't um, like basically where we are from. It wasn't from our territory. It was kind of like a Haida form line style. That's what they are teaching us. And it was also from like a non-indigenous teacher. So it, it's a lot of kind of lack of knowledge and resources, uh, like just being able to educate others on Coast Salish art, being from that territory and stuff like that. But I've also been in a position this year to share what I know through a program called Connected North at Home. And they put me on doing Salish art class sessions online for children across North America, which has
Awesome.
been really cool. Like, I would have never seen myself in a position to be teaching, kids the stuff that I have learned. It just kind of blows my mind, and I'm really thankful to be in a position to share some of that stuff.
That's great. And
Because
I'm not, yeah,
I
go
definitely
ahead.
didn't have that when I was a kid. Like, if I had someone like a Salish artist passing down the information and the knowledge, uh, I'm just really thankful for something like that. It totally blows my mind.
It's so necessary. And I'm not surprised to hear that in school you were being taught indigenous art by non-indigenous people. Like, It's ironic, you know, but it's not surprising, right? It just seems like that's just how it seems like when you look at your school, when the way it was set up, like the way you were taught history and all of these things, was it mainly, it was from more of like a white perspective, and were most of your teachers non-indigenous, and how did that affect you?
Um, I think things were just developing then. I'm like now things are a lot better, I'm sure. Uh, but yeah, back then I went through. Uh, in elementary, I went to a private Christian school, and I was one of the only. Like there was only a handful of Native kids, and I was one of them. And I went through that for about 7 years, and then I spent a short time in junior high on my reservation at that school, and then I went out of town to a public school. And when it came to teaching history and stuff like that, it was all about Canadian government, very little um, indigenous history and stuff like that. So when I got older, I just started basically teaching myself and learning about that myself. So yeah, I'm sure things are different now, but back then, uh, like you wouldn't you wouldn't know about Coast Salish art and stuff like that. So it's just starting to be passed down and educated in recent times.
So you think your school was probably, you know, if you're thinking now schools are better than when you went, what do you think they were like for your mother or even your grandparents?
I'm sure it was lot tougher,
Yeah.
especially dealing with residential school and stuff like that. So it's just a sign that through the generations, things are definitely getting better, and especially Coast Salish art. I mean, you're starting to see more opportunities for Indigenous artists like myself sharing the beauty of Coast Salish art. For example, the Vancouver Mural Fest, uh, taking a handful of Coast Salish artists and just showcasing that throughout the city. It's definitely something that we need, and I'm really thankful for opportunities like this because just this year it seems like um, a lot of good things are coming to me, and I've been really busy and just being in a position to get more of my work out there and get more of my knowledge out there, teaching kids and stuff like that. It's been a really good year for me aside from the pandemic anyway, which is
Yeah.
pretty crazy. So I'm thankful for that.
And when you think of, so a lot of the Salish art is depicted of animals. So whales, ravens, hummingbirds, wolves. And I think maybe each, it just depends on where you come from, what those animals symbolize. Do you know, for you, for Salish sea artists, can you give us a couple example of what like a sea wolf or a raven symbolize, or do you know the symbolism behind that?
Yeah, I've learned a few things. It's different for each territory and different nations for sure. There's definitely certain animal figures that are prominent through all indigenous nations, like an eagle, for example.
Yeah.
There's a lot of story behind the animals, and like for a design that I'm doing for the Vancouver Mural Fest, it's a butterfly design. And to me, the butterfly is something that I wanted that represents change and growth. And I wanted like one of my first biggest designs to kind of represent that, showcasing the beauty of Coast Salish art, but also my personal growth as an artist. Because I've only been doing it for about 6 years now, but I've come so far and it just continues to grow. And I wanted uh, a big design opportunity like that to showcase something like that. So there's definitely meaning behind the designs. Um, but like I said, it's different for each nation as well. But every design has a story. And that's kind of like what I want to represent in my work that I share. Not necessarily a story sometimes, but just through like daily inspiration, things that go through my mind during the day or something that I see and appreciate the beauty in and just want to express that through my work.
Yeah, there is so much beauty behind the idea of change with your butterfly, right?
Yeah, yeah, I'm relatively new at this, and man, I've just been taking on so much, and I'm working constantly every day to kind of hone my skills as an artist and just take on more knowledge and just kind of going with the flow on that right now. And things are going like exceptionally well for me.
And when you're doing your art, you're mainly graphic art, right? So it's mainly through some kind of app that you use, some kind of software that you use.
Yeah, I mainly do graphic art and design. I do logo design as well. And you can kind of see that side of me through my work because a lot of my designs are minimal and clean, kind of like a logo sometimes. So I like very symmetrical designs, nice and neat and tidy.
Yeah.
That's just kind of my style, but still vibrancy and bold and unique that catches your eye and kind of stays imprinted in your mind after you see it as well.
Yeah. And so when you've been teaching children recently, um, I'm wondering, like, because this is like a very personal and this is a cultural thing that it's part of your identity. And when you're sharing it with others, do you feel comfortable? Are you okay with people using Salish art, even if they're not from Salish Sea? Is that
That's
okay by you or?
That's a really good question, and that I'm glad you asked that because we definitely need more artists to speak on topics like this. There are definitely things that we hold sacred in our culture, but I want to make sure through the designs that and styles that I show the kids and others, like I do designs for a few other apparel companies, and I want that to be not just for meant for indigenous people to wear. I want the beauty of that work to be shared by everyone. So sure, there are some things that we still hold sacred to us, or that I hold sacred, but the designs that I put out are meant to be appreciated and enjoyed by everyone.
Yeah, that's,
So there definitely
yeah.
is um, like kind of like a fine line between that, but I'm really comfortable sharing my work with, especially children. I think like this opportunity to share knowledge with kids was never something I thought about. Like I never even see myself becoming an artist, which is really crazy being in the position that I'm in now. But definitely wanting to inspire and educate youth has been kind of my main goal in the work that I do, and especially inspiring like indigenous youth from reservations to see that you can find success, um, like through like after negative experiences and come up and be successful. And yeah, yeah, it's just really good feeling to be able to pass on that
Yeah.
knowledge to youth and inspire others.
It's actually, I mean, now that you're explaining all these things, it actually, I feel like you're in a big role because
Yeah.
you are, like you said, there's a fine line, and you are actually um, bringing these two together in a way. So you're there as a role model to inspire young indigenous youth, like, hey, I'm here to encourage you. You can do it. I want you to make it. You can make it. um, and then there's the non-indigenous that you're saying, like, this is our culture, there's so much wealth behind it, there's a sacredness behind it. If you're interested in it and you respect it, then you'll be able to spread this to other people as well and show that it's important. Like, all
Hmm.
these people can be kind of like your little seeds of awareness to spread like a lot of goodness in a way for everybody. It's not.
Yeah, and it's not just to share Coast Salish art with like kids and stuff. It's also meant to just be inspired to vent that creative energy into whatever you're doing, and always expressing how much work I've put into what I do, And after putting constant practice into whatever you do, you can find success in anything pretty much. That's kind of what I want to put onto the youth that I've been doing classes with and stuff like that. And it's been really fun. So I'm really happy about that. But yeah, I've been doing Coast Salish graphic art for about 5 or 6 years. But I first started just kind of, I guess I can get into this story, but I was an industrial painter for about maybe 8 or 9 years altogether. And I was working outside of my reservation in a small town in Agassiz, and they had an industrial workshop where I was an industrial painter for about 7 years. So I did no art at all. I was just kind of punching the clock, going to work, and that was basically my life. So there came a time when they were doing big layoffs throughout the company, and I happened to be kind of one of the last ones to let go. And after that, I did not know what my next step was, because that's all I knew at the time was just going to work, being an industrial painter, putting in the work, and that was basically my life. And I was kind of content with that at the time. So I think at that point, things just kind of got flipped upside down for me. Like I didn't know what I was going to be doing next. So I went on employment insurance and I had about a year accumulated of that to kind of figure out what my next step was going to be. And it was during that time when I kind of felt compelled to vent some of that creative energy that was in me, because coming from a creative family, I think that was just there inside of me, and I just didn't really realize it. So I was using my time at home to kind of stay productive. And I remember getting into culinary arts. I was watching a lot of YouTube videos and just coming up with creative dishes, especially indigenous dishes, like using ingredients from our territory. I was really into that for the longest time, and I thought that was going to be kind of my next step. And I was doing stuff. I bought a guitar, and I was teaching myself how to play an electric guitar. Just felt really cool to be able to use that time to kind of figure things out for myself. And then I started just doing doodles, drawings in a sketchbook. And I kind of felt like I was kind of nervous about sharing my work with others, but I started posting my sketch work on Instagram and Facebook. And then I think maybe just after maybe the third drawing that I did, it was a picture of Bruce Lee. And I drew a picture of Bruce Lee because I was really into Kung Fu films and stuff like that, pop culture and stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely a big fan of Bruce Lee. So I drew a picture of him, and on his sleeve, I drew some kind of indigenous designs, some Salish designs, and I posted that, not really thinking anything of it. And then a company in Seattle seen that because I used one of my hashtags for Coast Salish. And then they messaged me and asked if I'd be interested in doing designs with them. So that's kind of how things started for me.
That's
Like
amazing.
I
That's so
wasn't really
awesome.
expecting that. Yeah. And then I jumped on the opportunity, and then we discussed some possible ideas. And I remember coming up with a Batman logo design done in an indigenous style, because I was really into comic books in my childhood, and I wanted to kind of express that. So that was one of my first designs, and they loved it. And then they asked if I knew how to digitalize and vector that work, and I knew nothing about
Yeah.
that.
Like nothing,
Like I
right?
was just drawing with a pencil and pad. And then I was like, no, I don't, but that's something I can look into. And then that's when I started just doing my research online. And I remember I went to Walmart and I bought one of those drawing tablets that connect to a computer. And then I just started watching like endless YouTube tutorials. And I was in the position where I was just at home for a year, unemployment insurance, so I could use that time every day to learn a new tutorial and just start from there. And that's when I learned, with the help of a good friend too, who went to design school. He was giving me advice as well. That's when I learned how to do the vectoring and the graphic art and like Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator. I spent that entire year just kind of learning graphic art.
That's
So
exciting. And it's also the fact you decided to take that year and just really express yourself in all different forms.
yeah,
So it's, I mean, it just seems like you're naturally optimistic type of person, maybe because so many people could easily go into depression and be like, oh, poor me, right? And you were still able to say like, okay, I'm going to just express myself, and it just naturally led to what you're doing now. And you self-taught, you know, all the graphic art. That's really cool. And when I look at your art, like, I just feel like you're just an artist. Like, I don't question it at all. It just seems like you totally have your own style and know what you're doing and have something to say. And it's great people are reaching out to you. And so you mentioned that superheroes and comic, and I think you mentioned something about a project. Is it called the Spider-Man project?
oh yeah, that was part of the online teaching sessions that I do through Taking It Global, Connected North at Home. We started that this year, and since it was geared more towards children, I've seen it as a perfect opportunity to kind of showcase kind of that nerd side of me that's been into like Batman and Spider-Man. So I kind of did a fun design of a Spider-Man logo with them, and also being able to kind of showcase the type of elements that we use in Coast Salish art, the crescent shapes, the trigon shapes, and they caught on really fast. Like they now know that when they see a trigon or a crescent inside an indigenous piece of work, that, hey, yeah, that's Coast Salish art. I know
Okay,
that.
I didn't know
So
that.
yeah, and there's definitely a distinct style between the artwork that's showcased in British Columbia, and yeah, it's really great to pass down some of that knowledge, because I think it's really going to be great for them, because that's not something that I had when I was learning or when I was growing up. So it's really cool to be in that position. I'm really thankful for groups like Connected North that have given me that opportunity to do these types of projects. Just recently, this year, we also had a project of language learning flashcards, Nlaka'pamux flashcards, which is the language used in our territory. And I did 40 animal designs in a month, which was really crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I basically took the month of December to work on that. And it turned out really good. I do have some of these here, actually. I'll show
Awesome.
them.
Yeah.
There's 40 of these designs, and it's
So
in
cool.
our
There's the
Nlaka'pamux.
coyote.
Yeah,
Yeah.
coyote,
Whale.
the frog, peepaham.
Cool.
So really thankful to have something like this to offer to like indigenous schools to help teach the language, because I definitely feel like as much as our Coast Salish art is vital, so is our language, to keep the culture intact and to keep passing it down through generations. So projects like this is definitely worthwhile, and those are the type of projects that I want more of. So really thankful for opportunities like that. It's just been a real blessing to uh, share my creative side into something so worthwhile, and also learning the language too. I learned a little bit of our language in school, but as I grew older, that kind of just, you kind of forgot about it. So they gave me an opportunity to sit in with the Nlaka'pamux language class, and I got to learn some more Nlaka'pamux through that project. So that's been really cool. It's kind of on hiatus now with the pandemic. So hopefully I'll get back into that, because
And
that's just
yeah,
something I really enjoy.
who were those courses taught by?
It's the Nlaka'pamux language class, which is located in Desroches, BC. and we did all our sessions online. And through that project, they allowed me to sit in on the class and give me the input on the card designs that I was doing and the name for each animals and stuff like that.
And are those classes taught by the elders, or like who's speaking these languages right now?
There's definitely elders involved, and those that have went to like UCFE, they have Nlaka'pamux language classes. Certain people that have all come together and started up something like that. So it's really cool
Yeah.
to see.
Because it seems like when I've done my own research, and there are so many languages out there for each territory, and it seems like a lot of them are disappearing. So, like where you grew up, would you hear it on a daily basis, or not, or not really at all?
Mostly just in school and some of the elders. It's not something that was used frequently, but thankfully they're still keeping that. Like my nephew, for example, back home in BC, probably knows way more Nlaka'pamux than me through school, which is really cool to see.
Yeah.
And that's also ties into the artwork as well, because each tribe and nation has their own distinct style of art. And I think that's something that we really need to educate others on. Like a lot of people, they'll see it just as native art, not specific tribes like Coast Salish art or Haida or Ojibwe and stuff like that. So it's definitely cool to like through these projects and through the apparel companies that I work with, be able to not only share the beauty of our work, but to also educate on the different styles that are involved.
Yes, and then just to like, you're such a positive person, but I'm gonna just darken things a tiny bit, because I want people listening to understand that, from my understanding, all these languages and a lot of the culture and art actually were erased, right, by people that colonized and decided to create resident schools and all these schools, and basically erased and said you can't speak your language at school anymore, all of these things. And so, because I want people to understand that it didn't die out because the culture didn't keep it alive. It actually was erased. People tried to erase it. That's my understanding. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
And that just kind of shows how resilient we really are. Like to be able to still showcase the beauty of our work, just kind of shows, and the language especially, just kind of shows that resilience and, you know, that we're still here.
Yeah. And for you personally, this is more of a creative question. If you were to choose an animal or even a superhero that would represent resilience to you, what would it be?
That would represent resilience. That's really hard to say because I like showcasing that through basically all of my work because yeah, just being able to showcase Coast Salish art in general is a good sign of resilience. So I think that's something that I'm really proud of. And yeah, sure, different animals mean certain things to me, but it's more so just my way that I express myself through daily inspiration. And like like this backpack I have behind me is one of my designs that I do with Sailor Cell, and I do a lot of different apparel designs. And designs like this definitely have a story to it. Like this is an eagle design, and I really enjoy patterns. I love playing with patterns and symmetrical designs, and it just kind of fits with a lot of apparel companies. And this is an eagle design, and the blue here represents the Fraser River where I'm from, the eagle over the river in a sunset. And that just is inspired from basically missing British Columbia, where I'm from, the Fraser River, Stalo Nation, the people of the river, and just how much I appreciate um, my life there, growing up there, and just the beauty that surrounded me. I think, and it's work like that that I express that. I might not let everyone know the story behind it because I like people to um, kind of basically see it with their own eyes and get a feeling from it, or a story or something like that, rather than me telling them exactly
Yeah,
what it is.
there's a little mystery behind it
Yeah,
and room
exactly.
for interpretation.
Exactly. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, well, what brought you to Indiana? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. So I'm after like I wasn't totally successful as an artist. Obviously, I was trying to find more design opportunities to get more income from being an artist. So I was kind of bouncing around from job to job, working at like Home Depot and another industrial painting gig. And then I went through a small course through Stalo, which might have led to a job opportunity in production. But I just I just felt like I wanted to be an artist full time. Like I was kind of tired of doing labor gigs, just
Yeah,
punching the clock. I just felt like I was destined for something more than that.
yeah,
So I was just kind of struggling being an artist and kind of juggle design work and work in general and just not being paid enough. I was kind of falling into a depression, wondering if I should even continue my uh, artist career, design career. Um, so I think after I finished that program through Stalo, I was kind of in a position where I was like, okay, I can look for another whatever type gig like Home Depot or something like that, around the lines like that. Or I could figure out a way to go into art and design full time. And my sister lives here in Indiana because she teaches at creative writing at Purdue University. She was also always kind of inviting or hinting to me to come down and check it out. So I've seen it as like the timing was just so perfect after finishing that program with Stalo. Um, it just seemed like the perfect opportunity to reconnect with my sister, who I haven't really seen in like 5 years or something like that, and my nephews as well. So I came down here to stay with her, and it's given me a perfect opportunity to kind of just really sit down and focus on my art and design career. And I kind of wanted to change as well because I was kind of tired of uh, just the scenery back home because I was depressed as well. So things have been great coming here. Like I've had the best year ever as far as my design career goes. And it's only been my first year kind of taking that plunge into going into full-time design and art. So yeah, I've just been really thankful that I've had, my sister here to kind of let me just come chill out for a while and just be an artist. It's just been the perfect opportunity. She's man, she's doing so good herself. She wrote a New York Times bestseller, Heartberries, and she's been teaching here at Purdue University. So we definitely come from a really good creative background.
yeah. And
So
it sounds like very successful. I mean, Purdue is such a prestigious, well-known school, you know?
yeah, it is. I'm really proud of all her accomplishments, and yeah, just being able to reconnect with her has kind of um, motivated me as well to just kind of really sit down and buckle down on what I want my next steps and my goals to be. And yeah, my design projects just keep getting bigger and bigger. And I released my website this year, salishsundesigns.com. and really looking into my next steps business wise on, yeah, my own personal growth.
One thing I found out, I think it's just by coincidence. We were in Vancouver and I happened to go into a store, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, Nanumo Designs.
Know me, know you. Yeah, that's a
Yes, No Me No
brand
You
that
Designs.
that
And
I've
then I
been
saw
working with.
recently that those are yours, right?
I do have a collection on there. Yeah,
That's
they
so
have
cool.
they have a few other really fantastic artists, and they've been so cool to work with because they don't work with just Salish artists or like Haida artists. They take artists from all over the world to basically share their artwork through their brand. And it's been really cool to be a part of. I was really thankful for that opportunity because yeah, I'm trying to get my hands into everything.
Yeah.
As far as my art goes, I want to just, yeah, get as much as I can out there. And they've been really generous and just supportive of my work. And those are the type of companies and organizations that I look to work with because I want to keep the integrity of my art intact and just being able to share it in such a positive way, because that's kind of how I am, just positive in
Yeah, it's
general.
great. Yeah, I mean, I saw that store and I saw that they had a lot of Salish sea designs and other types of designs, and I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And then I heard that the owner is from there. Is she also from Salish Sea, one of the nations, Salish Sea nations, or not?
Yeah, she definitely does have indigenous roots. I can't recall which tribe she represents specifically,
Yeah.
but I definitely love working with other indigenous business owners. And wow, that seems to be really who I normally work with, because I also, when it comes to logo design, it's normally for indigenous businesses and stuff like that. So definitely appreciative of that, because they really look out for their artists and compensate their artists properly, which is definitely something that you could fall into as an artist, not being compensated fully for your work. So yeah, definitely want to educate more people on that as well, especially those that are coming up as wanting to find success as a like an indigenous artist as well, because
Yeah,
there's a
it's
lot
important
of,
to see that there's success and there's different outlets and there's different business owners that want to create a community and support their own artists. So that I just feel like our world's kind of slowly it's moving towards that direction, and people are taking like they're becoming more aware that we need to be aware of what is going on out there and how minorities are treated, how business is run. We see today there's so much unethical business out there, and we have those choices. We can decide to make ethical choices, conscious decisions when we buy something, like, are we going to buy something that was produced the cheapest way, that's ruining the planet, that's flown all over the world, that's not going to help anyone really? Or are we going to choose somebody local, somebody that is doing their thing and raising awareness? Like we have these choices now. And when we see people like you or your art, that also brings up like, wow, I have a decision. Like I can support this young artist who's trying to raise awareness in his community, in our community. um, I had that opportunity to support that, or I can just buy Nike, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there's definitely a lot of ins and outs business wise if you're trying to come up as an artist through you know, doing work with other brands and stuff like that. So really have to be cautious and aware. And yeah, I feel like I've found success doing that so far, and I'm really excited for, you know, opportunities ahead on my other endeavors. So I'm definitely doing a lot of research on what my next step is going to be on my path through art and design career.
I wish you the best. I'm very excited that we were able to talk and that I got to hear your story and how you got to be where you are today. If you had any words of wisdom to impart on young people aspiring to be artists who think, well, I'll never make it as an artist, or I'm not good enough, or who's going to like my art, like what kind of words of wisdom would you impart on them today?
Yeah, it can definitely be a struggle, and you're definitely due for like a lot of stressful times as well, because um, it's definitely not easy trying to make a living being an artist these days. So I definitely feel very fortunate, but I keep that positive mentality. Like whatever positive energy I put into something, I'm going to get that back to me. And that's how I approach my work. I'm constantly wanting to practice and continue to hone my skills and to learn more about the culture and history. And that's kind of how I started getting into Coast Salish art, was learning more about our past and our ways and the traditional art before me. Like I was studying um, our ancestral designs from our past, and that's kind of how I started to teach myself Coast Salish art, was practicing those ancestral designs. So definitely doing your research, doing your homework, and just putting in the work. If you're putting in work into anything, you're just going to find something good come back from that, no matter what it is you're doing. So yeah, basically you just got to put in the work.
Thank you. Those are inspiring words, honest words as well, delivered with optimism. So that's going to help, I think, some of our viewers out there that might be in a position where they're figuring out what they want to do and maybe need a little inspiration. So thank you. And thank you for all of your time. And I will post a link to your website as well.
Excellent.
So when our video is up through our website, you'll be able to link. So people that want to see more art, see what kind of projects you are, if people are interested in the language cards, or maybe if there's people out there that want to commission you for certain projects even, we will put
Yeah, I'm
your,
definitely available for
yeah.
a lot of different things, and I love being in that position too. So yeah, I'm very thankful for that, and really enjoyed being able to share some of my story today too.
Yeah. So thank you so much for all your time.
Thank you.